afternoon. I would like to welcome you all to this panel. My name is Claudia Garcia, and I am the current recruitment manager at Accenture. And today we'll be conducting a panel with a purpose to argue different points regarding social networking background checks. And our panel consists of, to my automatic left, is Sasha Hatcham. She is the Human Resources Manager at Microsoft. And immediately after her is Nicholas Ukros. He is the Human Resources Manager at Coca-Cola. And at the end is Anna Newman, who is the Human Resources Manager at Quintiles International. And the ground rules are of each panelist will have 2 minutes to answer each question, and 1 minute to answer the audience questions at the end. Our audience here, as I understand, we have public relations representatives from 7 multinational companies, as well as many journalists from the New York Times and CNN. So we will start with our first question, which will be answered by each of the panelists. The first question is, what's your position on performing social networking background checks in the process of hiring? And I will direct that for Sasha.
Good afternoon, my name is Sasha Fajan, and I'm for using social media network websites when employers are hiring their people. First of all, we are living in a 21st century world, and employers cannot escape facing the social networking influence on their life. According to the article of Larry Basnoff, marketing companies have noticed that hundreds of millions of social networkers are now actively marketing to them. You always hear all these sayings, join me on Facebook and like our new product or service or follow us on Twitter. That's why with this much said and this much attention being paid, it's the only natural for employers to check their employees' background when they're hiring people. Another reason why HR managers and employers should be using social networking sites is then it's free. Why should we pay all this money to detectives and national investigative services and government when we all can just Google the person or find him on Facebook and find all the necessary information? It's all for free. If you want to find out where someone worked before their current job, you can just go to LinkedIn social website and check his background and where he worked, where he previously worked. If you want to determine whether your potential employee is a reliable person, you can go on Facebook and check his wall and see what pictures he has posted. Does he party a lot, or he has some pictures with his families also. Another reason to use social networking sites when hiring people is because it is fast. Why you need to wait for transcript to go from college when you can easily go to LinkedIn and check all the necessary information. There is no need to wait, so it will be just easier to everyone to use social networking websites.
Thank you for your response. We'll now hear the response from Nicholas Ukros.
So good afternoon, my name is Nicholas Ukros, and I strongly disagree with background checks with social networks. First of all, I want to give you a fact. In a recent studies from the New York Times, they say that 75% of the recruiters from the companies do social networks background checks, and 70% of the people that is checked doesn't get the job. The first thing I want to say about social network background checks is that many times there is a lot of information in Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, or that kind of social networks that it's not related directly with the job performance. I think that the activities that people do during their free time or during weekends has nothing to do with how they are gonna work or how they are gonna perform during their work. Another thing that I want to say is that you can always find information that you don't need to hire a person. For example, the class, the race, the grade, the color, the sex, age, pregnancy, sexual orientation. Those are all things that you are not allowed to use for a hiring. The other thing is that as I said, it's illegal. So you're gonna put, as a recruiter, you're gonna put your company in risk. You can get in a process with the law, and it's obviously something that you wanna avoid. Another important thing about this is that you can violate the applicant's rights. Every person that is applying to a job has some rights, and the rights of this person are their privacy. A company cannot check your information without your
For your
permission.
response. We will now hear the response from Anna Newman.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna Newman. As Claudia said, I am an HR manager at Quintiles, and I'm neither for nor against social media background checks, because as an HR manager, I'm able to recognize how positive and as well how negative background checks can be. Well, from the company's point of view, background checks give them this extra reassurance that they are hiring the person that they think they are. For example, and also especially the top 3 social media networks, which are LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, all provide big hiring opportunities for both employers and employees. Also, according to a recent JobLite survey, 89% of the companies are currently using or are planning to use social media to support their hiring efforts. And out of all of those companies, 87% already use or are going to use LinkedIn in the future. But even though both employers and employees tend to benefit from background checks, as employers are increasingly turning to the social medias to support their hiring efforts, invasion of privacy often takes place. And the issue gets even more complicated and bigger when you try to establish those privacy boundaries, because they vary for each individual, as each person has a different concept and a different understanding of what privacy space is and what their privacy rights are.
Okay. We now have some personal questions that will be assessed by each individual panelist. Each panelist, as we said in the beginning, will have 2 minutes to answer each question. And the first question is for Sasha Hacha. How can performing social networking background checks help protect against negligent hiring liability?
First of all, define what is negligent hiring. According to the article published by Society for Human Resources Management, negligent hiring is the failure of the employer to investigate jobs, applicant work, experience, character, criminal history, and other data prior to the hiring of an employee. Moreover, negligent hiring costs a lot of money to the company. It also has a great influence on reputation of your company. According to the article, Avoiding Negligent Hiring Lawsuits for HR Manager magazine, average settlements in negligent hiring lawsuits are now approaching $1 million. Your organization can and will be responsible for the criminal or violent act of your employees because you are the one who hired them. The costs are too great to put your organization at risk by hiring employees without performing and documenting proper information on their background. Therefore, I believe that social network background should be used when employers and HR management hire people.
Our next question is from Nicholas Ukros. Are there any flaws in social networking background checks?
Actually, I think there are a lot. There is a lot of inaccurate information and a lot of mistakes that can be found in social networks. And most of the people can have different activities, if you want to call it like that, to don't say weird, that are not related to the job performance they are going to have. And companies tend to relate these 2 things, the private life and the company job performance. I think that in social networks, people post things without any reviews. Friends or family post things that maybe do not describe you as well as a formal description of you would be. I think that companies can also confuse things. Pictures that you're having fun, they can think that you were drunk, that you were doing other stuff. And I also think that when you see posts in Facebook or Twitter or MySpace you don't know the entire history of the post. If someone comments something in a picture, you don't know what was going on before or what happened before the post. So you can do wrong assumptions about the person, and it's not because you want to do the assumption, it's just because you don't know the entire information.
Our next question is for Anna Newman. What does the law say about social networking background checks?
There are no federal laws that specifically regulate social media privacy, but some states do have some sort of regulation. In some cases, privacy boundaries are crossed and taken to an extreme by potential employers requiring their applicants to turn over passwords to social media accounts. According to Jacqueline Woolen from the Ezra Law Firm, in order to help job seekers to protect their online privacy, states such as California, Maryland, Michigan, and New Jersey have all passed laws of social media privacy. And what those laws do is that they make it illegal for employers to require applicants to hand over their passwords to private accounts, which helps them to protect their personal accounts and also private interactions when they're looking for a job. But those laws will only help you and affect you if you live in a state that has passed an internet privacy law. So to sum up, social networking background checks are very useful, and they can be beneficial for both employers and employees. Networks such as LinkedIn, they were especially made for that, to facilitate this communication and sharing of information between potential employers and potential employees. However, those background checks can become really invasive, as employers might start looking at your personal life instead of your professional life and asking for a Facebook password account, for example. And aware of that, some states started to create laws to protect people's privacy and their personal life from being exposed, but without prohibiting those types of background checks, as they are usually valuable for both sides if the privacy boundaries are not crossed. But again, the problem is that people have different views of privacy boundaries, and so background checks are both positive and negative for both, but they are more positive for some people than they are for others. And that's why I am neutral in this discussion.
Okay. Well, to conclude this panel, we have heard from Sasha Hachan, who is for social networking background checks and believes that such background checks allow the employers and the customers to better determine if the potential applicant potentially poses any kind of threat to an employer or future customers. We have also heard from Nicholas Ukros, and he is actually against social networking background checks, and he believes that such background checks are inaccurate and there are mistakes. And we have also heard from Anna Newman, who has a neutral position on social networking background checks, and she has clearly stated that the legality of the background checks varies by state. And I would like to thank every one of y'all for coming here, as well as the panelists for bringing their expertise to this panel. And we will now open the floor for questions and answers. Okay.
What reliable social networking website does human resource managers use when they hire potential employers?
Okay. The question is, what reliable social networking website does human resource managers use to hire potential employers? And I will direct that question for Sasha.
This is a good question. There is a lot of social networking websites such as Facebook, Twitter, and MySpace, but the most reliable one is LinkedIn because it's the world's largest professional network with 200 million members in 200 countries and territories around the whole globe. The sites are available in almost every language, in English, French, German, Italian, Spanish, and others. There are Quantrust report that LinkedIn has 21.4 million monthly unique US visitors and 47.6 million globally. According to Forbes, LinkedIn is far away and the most advantaged social networking tool available to job seekers and business professionals today. That's why we think that LinkedIn should be used when we hire people.
Okay, are there any further questions?
One of you talked about states' legislation, but I'm wondering what social networks regulations are on social networks. So what are those social networks rules regarding turning over passwords to potential employees or others?
Okay. The question is, what is the legality of social network rules regarding turning over passwords to potential employers? And I will direct that question to Anna.
The regulation vary as the network has a different terms of service. Facebook contract says they will not share your password, let anyone else access your account, or do anything else that might jeopardize the security of your account. Twitter's terms of service states that you are responsible for safeguarding the password that you use to access the service and for any activity or action under your password. LinkedIn contract says you agree to 1, keep your password secure and confidential, and 2, not permit others to use your account. So Facebook and LinkedIn make it very clear that you have to keep your password confidential and not let anyone else use your account. Twitter, on the other hand, only says that the password confidentiality and your account access are your responsibility.
Okay, are there any further questions? Yes.
Yeah. What's the biggest mistake firms make when using background check with social networks?
Okay, the question is, what is the biggest mistake firms do when using background checks with social networking? And I will direct that question for Nicholas.
Okay, so I think there are a lot of mistakes that they can make, but the biggest mistake is that they make assumptions based on the things that they see on your personal pages. I mean, if you had a problem before with an homosexual person and you see that the applicant is homosexual, then you can assume things that don't need to be true, but you are just generalizing things. And I also think that you relate things that doesn't have anything to see with the job performance, like you relate the class, the race, the age, pregnancy, whatever, the color. And I have an example of one of my good friends, a very close friend, that he has an alcoholic problem. He has problems with alcohol, and I can say that he is probably one of the best workers that I've seen. He is very efficient doing his work, and he has his problem of alcoholism. And I don't think that affects the work he does.
Thank you. And well, that concludes your panel. I would like to thank you all again for coming to hear this panel. Thank you.